Hey there, this is Dr. Kevin Davin, and today we're going to talk about how to cure yourself of diabetes. I know it's a bold statement, but it's absolutely true. You do not have to live with diabetes, mainly type 2 diabetes, anymore. So, in our world today, we think this is a lifelong disease, but personally, I've seen people within a month, in fact, as soon as 10 days, totally get over their diabetes, get off all their medication. So, I think you're going to really enjoy today's lecture. To me, knowledge is power, so understanding what's happening inside the body really helps people visualize how to get well. So I hope you enjoy today. First thing I always start with is that this is not a band-aid. What we want to do is get to the root cause of the issue. There's a lot of people who have diabetes and they end up taking stuff like metformin or other types of medications, and yeah, while it might make you survive, it's just masking the problem. What's happening inside your body is still going on, and a lot of times it'll make the condition worse over time. So what we're going to talk about today, this is not a treatment for symptoms. This is actually getting to the cause and cleaning the body out. Just a quick look of what we're going to talk about today. Number one, what is diabetes? Number two, normal digestion of sugars. It's essential to understand how sugar interacts in your body, what it does, so you understand what causes diabetes. Number three, we're going to talk about the two main causes of diabetes. And then number four, kind of get you on a plan to how you cure yourself forever. So let's get started. When we talk about diabetes, people initially think of sugar, and this is the one point I want to talk about. Diabetes, yeah, it's kind of a sugar disease, but it's really not, okay? Sugar is essential for life. Sugar is not a bad thing. If you look over here, here's your DNA and your RNA. See these little dark bands here? These are made out of sugar. So without sugar, your body cannot make DNA, it cannot make RNA. You cannot survive without sugar. Right here is something called a mitochondria. Mitochondria are all inside of every cell of your body. And what these mitochondria do is they're kind of like factories. And what happens is this. Glucose or sugar comes in to the mitochondria along with oxygen, and what comes out of there is energy. So you need sugar in order to make energy. Without sugar, you have no energy. You can't even bat an eyelash without sugar. Okay? So, I don't want you to think sugar is bad. It's not. Okay? What we're going to talk about, one of the things is way too much sugar can be an issue. But when we're talking about diabetes, we need to focus more on this. It's called insulin. Insulin is a hormone that's made in your pancreas. And the whole purpose of insulin is this. Insulin is like a key that goes into the door of the cell. Without this key, this portal right here stays closed and sugar cannot get in. So what happens is the pancreas will make insulin, the key goes inside of here, it'll turn and open up this door and allow glucose to come in. Okay, so insulin allows sugar to go into the cell so that we can make energy. When the cell is done or it doesn't need any more sugar, the key will come out, the door will close back up again, and sugar cannot get back in again. It's how your body regulates sugar. Another interesting thing to note, insulin is the only hormone that you have that allows you to put on weight. So if you're getting overweight, it's because you have way too much insulin going on. Okay? So now let's talk about diabetes. There are three types to talk about. Type 1 diabetes, typically you're born with it. What happens in these people is they do not make insulin, or they make very low amounts of insulin. So let's take this through. If you don't make insulin, that means that this key never happens. Over here, it means that the glucose door or the sugar door never opens, so your cells are deprived of sugar. So if your cells are deprived of sugar, you cannot make energy and you die. So when someone has type 1 diabetes, the solution is to give them insulin. Type 2 diabetes is what we used to call adult onset diabetes, and it's going to be the main focus of today's talk. Type 2 diabetes is not called adult onset anymore because kids are getting it now, and they're getting it in massive amounts of numbers. Someone with type 2 is something called insulin resistant. So what it means is this: over time, your body stops listening to this key. So the key no longer opens the sugar door and sugar stops getting in. Okay? It's an entirely different problem, which we'll get into today. Type 3 diabetes is pretty new. People might have not heard about it. Another name for type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. Essentially, it's advanced type 2 diabetes. So, when the cells of your body become insulin resistant, they can't make energy anymore. When this happens in your brain, that's what we call Alzheimer's. The brain cells stop listening to insulin, sugar doesn't go into them anymore, and the brain cells can't make energy, and they die. This is called type 3 diabetes or Alzheimer's. Just want to play this quick video for you. This is showing what happens in the cell. So here's insulin that binds to the outside of the cell. It has a reaction. It opens up these portals or these doors and allows sugar to come in. Okay, when this is full, the insulin will go away and these doors will close. Alright, so let's get into how sugar is digested in the body. This is very important to know so you understand what's happening in diabetes. So digestion starts actually when you smell something and then when you put it in your mouth. As soon as you do that, the body starts to break down whatever it is into smaller and smaller components. So in the case of sugar, you might eat something like a piece of bread, for example. Your body starts to break it down, and then it goes into your stomach. And when it's in your stomach, your body will churn it, and then eventually it'll empty it into the small intestine. And as it breaks down finally into the smallest components, it'll get sucked up into your liver. And what happens in your liver is something really important. Your body takes all of the sugar and it starts to store it and store it and store it. And this is something called glycogen. So it's kind of like your sugar storage. It's like a silo that's holding up all your sugar, and it builds up over time. And then throughout the day, what ends up happening is whenever you need sugar, your body will release it into your bloodstream so that it can go to every single cell of your body. So if we follow the path, it goes from the mouth down into the stomach, into the small intestines, and then it'll store in the liver, and then the liver will slowly release it into the bloodstream so that it goes to every single cell of your body. Now, when your body has had enough sugar or doesn't need any more, and by the way, you only need about 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar in your blood at one time. You have your organ right over here. It's called your pancreas. And what your pancreas will do is it'll release something called insulin. So the brain will tell the pancreas, hey, produce some insulin. And that insulin will shoot over. The first thing it does is it goes to the liver and it tells the liver, hey, stop releasing this sugar. I hope that makes sense. Let's review it one more time. Sugar gets stored up in the liver. The liver starts releasing it. When the brain is sensing that you've had too much sugar, it sends a message to the pancreas. The pancreas produces this insulin. The insulin floats all the way over to the liver and tells it, hey, stop releasing sugar. And then the liver stops releasing sugar. Life is good. Okay? This is normal. This is what we want to see. Now, in the case of diabetes, there are two main causes. Number one, too many carbohydrates or too many sugars. And number two, problems with the sugar metabolism. What it means is this: either there's too much sugar in the system, which we're going to go through next, or we have a problem getting sugar into a cell, and that will also cause diabetes. So let's talk about both. First, let's talk about too much sugar. So in the 1980s, the government was very concerned with cancer, with heart disease, with obesity, with diabetes. So they put some new guidelines in place. And what they did was they took all this research that said that fat was the cause of all these horrible diseases. So what they ended up doing was they reduced fat from our diet. But here's the problem. What did they replace it with? Carbohydrates. So this is the fat-free phase where you go to the store and you get fat-free candy bars, fat-free, all this other stuff. But when you remove fat from something, it makes it taste horrible. So they added a whole bunch of sugar or high fructose corn syrup, which is pretty much pure nasty poison sugar, into these products. And what has happened, by the way, this is what our diet now consists of. This is our cereal. We have sugar, sugar, sugar everywhere. We have milk on top of that cereal, which, by the way, they add sugar to. Coca-Cola. Remember before I said you takes 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar? Now think about a can of Coca-Cola, which has 40 grams of sugar in it. I mean, it's ridiculous. Gatorade, loaded with sugar. Even our juices, loads and loads of sugar in them. Okay, then we have our complex carbohydrates, our breads, our pastas, our cereals, and then we have our nasty stuff like our pizzas, things like that. So we are sugared out. This is a very common problem. And since the 1980s, by the way, when they've taken fat out of the diet and added sugar, heart disease has gone through the roof, cancer has gone through the roof, obesity is now at an all-time high. We are 30 pounds heavier today than we were 30 years ago. So, let's talk about what this increased sugar is doing to the body, and it happens in stages. So remember, we talked about this normal cycle where the sugar's coming in, it's going down to your stomach, going over to your liver is storing up the sugar in glycogen, releasing it throughout the day. Okay, when your body doesn't want any more, the brain is telling the pancreas to produce insulin. But here's the problem. When you eat a whole bunch of sugar, it stores up in this liver. But what happens when you eat a tremendous amount of sugar? On that last slide, we talked about how much sugar we have. This is what's happening in your liver. You're storing it past to what the liver is comfortable storing. So the storage gets full. So when you go over here and the pancreas is producing insulin, instead of it only producing a couple little pieces of hormone to stop the insulin or stopping the sugar from being released, the liver is saying, whoa, no way, I need to release the sugar still. This is too much. So what happens is the pancreas needs to produce even more insulin. Okay? And that's why you have this happening. And then it'll finally stop. So here's the first thing that happens. When you have so much sugar, your sugar storage gets maxed out. When the pancreas talks to the liver and says, hey, you need to stop releasing sugar, the liver says, no way, I can't do that, I'm going to keep releasing it. But the brain goes haywire. It says, guys, we need to stop. So it tells the pancreas again, hey, produce even more insulin. Takes even more insulin to do the same exact job. Okay? And this is the first stage of diabetes. Okay, most people have this, they don't even know it because they don't measure this. Your insulin levels are increased. This is very early insulin resistant because your liver is a little bit resistant to the insulin. So let's say now I'm that person who has my liver totally backed up with sugar, okay? Still drinking my sodas, eating my cereal in the morning, having my breads, my pastas, my pizzas, whatever it is, throughout the day. So my liver is already maxed out. My brain's telling my pancreas, hey, create insulin. My pancreas is already producing a tremendous amount of insulin to stop this sugar from being released. But guess what? I keep adding sugar to my diet. What happens next? Here's the next step. Insulin starts to go to the cells. Sugar starts to leak out from the liver. So instead of this stopping like it did before, sugar continues to leak out. Okay? And it leaks out into your bloodstream. It's just way too much for your liver to handle, and it starts to leak out sugar that it shouldn't leak out. So what happens is your insulin needs to increase even further so that the cells can absorb this extra sugar. okay? But also what happens is the sugar in your blood increases. So this is the next stage. Your blood sugar levels begin to increase and your insulin levels rise. This is when you're labeled a pre-diabetic. So you can see when you're a pre-diabetic, you still have a lot of stress on your liver. Let's continue this further. Now let's say you continue to keep eating the same way you do. Okay? We're at this phase now where you have a tremendous amount of insulin increased in your blood, a tremendous amount of sugar that's being released from the liver. The liver keeps dumping it into your bloodstream, and now your body has to do something with it. So what your body does is it has to turn the sugar into something less toxic. And this is where fat comes from. Okay? What ends up happening is your body creates a tremendous amount of fat first in your liver. It'll create these little balls of fat. This is what we call non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It'll change the sugar into fat, and then it'll put fat around all of your organs of your body and around your stomach. Okay, just to show you, on the left is what a healthy heart looks like. This is what probably most of our organs in the United States look like on the right. It's called visceral fat, fat around your heart. And you can see what damage this creates to all of the organs of your body. So the next stage that happens is stage 3, is where your blood sugar levels continue to rise and your insulin levels continue to rise. At this stage you are now a diabetic, and they give you a medication such as metformin. And by the way, nobody knows how metformin works. The only thing they know about it is that it helps your body regulate your blood sugar levels, but they have no clue how it works, okay? But if you continue with your diet the way it is and adding sugar, eventually your blood sugar levels get super high, but your insulin levels will drop. And the reason for that is this, is your pancreas, after 10 or 20 years of this diet, has been working so hard, it just no longer can compete, and it just gives way. And as a result, your insulin levels crash. So a lot of people with diabetes, they'll notice at first their insulin levels are high, and then all of a sudden their insulin levels drop. And then this is somebody who's treated with insulin at this stage. This is a very advanced stage of diabetes. And then finally, if you keep continuing with the sugar, what ends up happening is the cells in your brain become insulin resistant, and they won't suck up any more sugar, and then you'll become essentially brain dead. That's what Alzheimer's is. So here you go. The final stage of diabetes is brain is insulin resistant, type 3 diabetes. Okay. So this is what happens when you have too many carbohydrates in your diet. It's very easy to see what happens. Okay, just a sugar overload. Your body gets backed up, can't take it anymore. Your sugar levels are going to rise, your insulin levels are going to rise, and then plummet. Pretty nasty thing that happened to your body. Now, there are a couple other things that can happen that can cause diabetes. So let's talk about them as well. When we're talking about sugar metabolism, what we're really talking about is how well the body can get the sugar into the cell to make energy. Okay? So the first thing that will cause this problem is this. Remember we talked about insulin having to go into the cell to open up the door in order for sugar to go inside? Well, there are a couple other things that are needed to open this door. You need some minerals. So more specifically, you need chromium and you need something called vanadium. Okay, there's a very complex diagram down here that you can read how, for example, how the vanadium works. But essentially, this is a good analogy. If we picture this as a door, when insulin comes in, it can either kind of nudge the door open, or you can open it wide open. The chromium and the vanadium make the door wide open, so a whole bunch of glucose can rush into the cell. If you do not have chromium or vanadium in your diet, what will happen is the insulin will only kind of nudge this door open, and only maybe 1 or 2 molecules will get in. And you'll need way more insulin to open up the doors in order to get all of this sugar in. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so if low, the sugar door won't open, causes increased need of insulin, and also will cause a sugar starved cell, which means your energy will drop. Okay? Guess what though? Where you get this stuff? Broccoli, carrots, cabbage, garlic, onions, tomatoes, corn, sweet potatoes. So as we get into how to get rid of diabetes, you're going to hear me say a lot of raw fruits, raw vegetables. This is where you get it. But on a side note, this is where you're going to get your minerals that are going to help open that sugar door. Another way to look at sugar metabolism is understanding how important the nervous system is in regulating blood sugar. Okay? I want you to understand one thing here. If we look at your brain, it is constantly talking to your stomach and your small intestine, understanding how much sugar is in the body and how much you took in, and the stomach is talking back to the brain. Okay? The brain is also responsible for sending messages to the pancreas to let it know how much insulin to produce, and the pancreas is sending messages back, letting the brain know what it's doing. Finally, the brain is talking to the liver, telling the liver how much sugar to release at every second, and the liver is talking back to the brain, letting it know what kind of condition it's in. So the nervous system is extremely, extremely important in regulating blood sugar, producing insulin, and just kind of knowing how much sugar is in the system. That only happens through the nervous system. But there's something called a subluxation, which means this. It means, imagine if the brain could not send its message to the pancreas, or it only sent 90% of the message to the pancreas. That means the pancreas would only produce 90% of the insulin it was supposed to, and then it would send the message back to the brain. Same here. What if my brain couldn't send a message to my liver to let it know how much sugar to release? Well, what's going to happen is the liver is going to release an improper amount of sugar and totally interfere with sugar metabolism. Okay? This blocked message is something that we call a subluxation, and it can lead to a tremendous amount of problems, not only diabetes, but pretty much you name it. Your nervous system is the master controller, so if something's affecting it, it can affect any single cell of your body. This is what a subluxation looks like. It's actually when the top bone of your neck, which is right here, let me change the color so you can see it, which is right here, is moved out of alignment, and what happens is it starts to squeeze on some of the nerves in the brainstem area. So what that means is the messages from the brain won't fully get to where they're supposed to go, and what's going to happen is that your whole system of sugar metabolism is going to be off. I've had people in my office that have been on medication for 20 or 30 years. We put this bone back into position, and instantly they come off their medication. It can be that impactful for someone's life. I've had other people who've had the perfect diet, eat impeccably, and they have diabetes, and you adjust that person, put the top bone back into position again to allow the brain to communicate again, and again, instantly off their medication. Pretty amazing stuff. And finally, it's really important that we talk about fiber. Fiber is something, it's actually what we call an anti-nutrient because our body doesn't absorb it. Okay? Fiber intake is essential because it slows down the absorption of sugar in your body. So remember before how we had the diagram and it showed that when we have sugar, it goes into your small intestine and then it goes into your liver? Well, when you have fiber present, that doesn't happen. The fiber will actually drag it through your entire system until it goes out of your colon. And in the process, it'll feed all the bacteria in your gut. And those bacteria make some very important things using that sugar. So, when we have fiber in our diet, sugar doesn't get absorbed as much as it did before, so the sugar doesn't end up in our blood. Okay? We recommend something called an 80-10-10 diet for a lot of people who have diabetes, which is actually 80% carbs, but you don't have to worry about the sugars because you have fiber. This is one of my favorite quotes. When God made the poison, he packaged it with the antidote, meaning this. When we eat a piece of fruit, okay, it's got poison in it, which is called fructose. It's the sugar inside fruit. It can be really nasty for our liver to handle. However, it's packaged with fiber. right? There's a tremendous amount of fiber in fruit and vegetables. So when we eat that fruit, that antidote is inside and it's passing through us and providing some awesome stuff for us. So fruit is not something you need to be afraid of. One of the most common things I see from people with diabetes is their doctors will tell them don't eat fruit, and it's one of the worst things you can tell somebody. We get people on this diet of pretty much eating raw fruits and vegetables, and they're astounded at what happens to their blood sugar levels. Totally balances out, so pretty amazing stuff. Alright, so here's your plan to health. How to reverse diabetes. Guys, I am telling you, if you follow these 4 things, your diabetes will revert very quickly. Number 1, do not eat processed or refined sugar. Pretty much if it's white or if you see any kind of high fructose corn syrup, do not eat it. Nothing that's processed, okay? By doing this, we're going to reduce the amount of sugar. Number 2, eat as much raw fruits and vegetables as you want. This is going to increase the fiber in our diet, and it's going to increase the chromium and vanadium like we were talking about. Number 3, get your upper cervical spine checked by an upper cervical chiropractor. So we're talking about subluxation and improving your nervous system. And then number 4, practice fasting. Okay, a really good analogy of this is I don't know if anyone's ever smoked before. For example, if you smoke something like a cigarette, at first you might be able to have 1 or 2 of them, but over time it doesn't give you the same effect, so you start to increase, your body wants more and more of it. The same thing is happening with insulin. When you have sugar, you increase insulin, and you keep bombarding and bombarding your body with insulin, so your body over time needs to make more and more of it in order to have the same effect. Fasting is absolutely amazing for this because it's doing the opposite. It's starving your body essentially, and as a result your body becomes way more insulin sensitive. So the same amount of insulin does a tremendous amount more work. This is what we want to do. So we recommend if you've never fasted before, start with something called intermittent fasting, which works this way. Eat 8 hours a day. Okay, for 8 hours a day, you're going to eat and try to eat only 2 meals in those 8 hours. So the way we do it is we skip breakfast, we eat lunch, and we eat dinner. We eat at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we eat around dinner time, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then we don't eat until 12 o'clock the next day. Okay, that's called intermittent fasting. I had one patient, just to show you how powerful this is, the only change he made in his diet was he skipped breakfast, ate lunch and dinner, and within, I believe, 2 weeks, he was using half as much metformin as he was before. I mean, just pretty amazing stuff right there. Okay? This is our diet plan, just to let you know. And by the way, I'm going to attach on the bottom of this, you can just put your email in and I will send you, or it'll bring you to your free ebook on how to eat healthy. It's very easy to do. I know some people get overwhelmed. It's very easy. This is our diet plan. On Mondays, we choose our fasting day. So we pick one day of the week that we fast. And then we pick one day of the week, usually for us it's on the weekend. We pick one day a week where it's our cheat day, where we can eat whatever we want on this day. That's our favorite day. Okay? And then 5 days a week, we stay very healthy on a plan. This is what we do. We intermittent fast, meaning we skip breakfast on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. At lunch, we stick to raw fruits or salads, raw fruits and vegetables, maybe a handful of nuts. We keep it light. And then for dinner, we have what we call our raw vegan meal. So I have a really good book. I really hope it's free. It's right below this video. Please, please, please download the book. It's got some awesome recipes that I got from a website. They take 5 minutes to make these meals. They taste unbelievable, and they're healthy for you. There's no excuse anymore. It's the easiest time ever to eat healthy. So this is our diet plan. If you follow this plan, I mean, your life is going to change. You're going to think better. You're going to heal better. You're going to feel like $1,000,000. So you follow this diet, you do not need to worry about diabetes anymore. Just a side note, we recommend the 80-10-10 diet, or more of like a raw vegan diet which is high in fruits. Works wonders. A lot of people have gone paleo or ketogenic, which means this. It means very high fat, very low carb. Here's the deal with this. When talking about diabetes, they both work. Okay? Why this is, think about it this way. In an 80-10-10 diet or a raw vegan diet where we're having a tremendous amount of fruit, we have a tremendous amount of carbohydrates, right? But we're also having a tremendous amount of fiber with it, so we have the antidote with it. With this diet, what these people are doing is they're just eliminating their carbs, so they have very low carbs in their diet. So they're not going to have all the insulin sensitivities or insulin resistance issues that most people have. So you can either cut carbs out of your diet pretty much altogether, or you can just switch to very healthy carbs and increase your fiber load. Both of them work. So if you want to stick on a paleo diet or go to a ketogenic diet, you can look this stuff up. Very easy to do. Again, your diabetes will also go away with a ketogenic or paleo diet. And guys, welcome to your new life. Okay? Stick to your diet. Practice a little bit of fasting. Get your nervous system checked. You'll be absolutely amazed at what happens. You no longer have to live with diabetes, but you do have to stand up and take responsibility and say, okay, I caused this, I can get rid of this. And you absolutely can. I guarantee you, if you break some of the addictions, and that's what we're dealing with, some food addictions. Sugar is 8 times more addicting than cocaine. So it can be tough, but if you stick with it and break it, it'll be the best thing you ever did in your life. I am here for you. If you need anything, please call our office, Pure Life Health Centers. Here's our number, our email address. Do not hesitate to contact us at all. I really hope you do. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any comments, please leave them. I love you all. Talk to you later.